The camera can be oh so cruel. It's there to remind us that actually 15 years is a long time.
No.
It's indeed time for The World This Week, 7 days for Paris-based correspondents. It's a special edition of The World This Week.
Confined edition. You can listen, like, and subscribe to The World This Week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other fine streaming services. From the financial crisis to the Arab Spring, Brexit and the rise of populism, COVID and the rise of the superpower tensions, global warming and the rise of the digital age, these Fridays in this studio have been the place where the Paris Press Corps took stock. A giant of our craft was the Daily Beast's first foreign editor, Christopher Dickey, who left us way too soon back in 2020. Here he was in 2017, right after the election of Donald Trump.
The basic problem here for anything like the relationship with Britain or with Mexico or with whether it's bilateral or multilateral is that he essentially sees the world as a collection of zero-sum games. I win, you lose. That's the way it works. Why is his favorite word? Loser. He's a loser, right? He loves to say that. He's obsessed with this idea.
And Nico Hines, does it feel like Back to the Future when you hear Viv Walt talking about broken U.S. politics and the fact that the same Donald Trump could be back soon?
Yeah, it's a scary prospect. We're going to go round and round again. And looking back over this period, the beginning of you being on this show, 2009, of course, was the year that Obama was inaugurated as president. It's like how much has changed, and whether or not you can kind of put, I think there's probably a pretty good argument. Obviously, the financial crisis was part of this too, but there's a pretty good argument that the election of Obama was what brought us Trump in the first place. Is a sort of yin and yang reaction to America kind of going crazy, half of America at least going crazy when Obama was elected, and then we got Trump. So these kind of wheels do move slowly. Obama always liked to say the arc of the arc would bend towards justice, but it might be bending towards another 4 years of Trump.
Yeah, and it's a question about what's the symptoms and what's the cause here. Vivian Walt, the financial crisis.
Totally. I think that was really the pivot point. Also happened to be when you started the show. But if you think about the financial crisis...
What are you saying? I bring bad luck.
Yeah, oh... Luckily, you're leaving, but the financial crisis, which gave rise, or just let's talk about the U.S. for a moment, the Tea Party movement, from which grew out of Trump, and most improbably, this multi-millionaire from New York City comes along as the hero of the people and the one that's going to kind of lead them out of servitude to the big elites, but that has been echoed in so many different places around the world. And I feel like we've spent years around this table talking about the rise of populism, the revolt against the urban elites here in France as well.
You and I were not on Twitter yet in 2009. It was a very new social medium, and now
and it was intelligent.
And everyone's got their echo chambers now, and that's also accompanied this rise.
What's your question?
This rise of populism that Vivian Walt is talking about.
Oh, absolutely. Across, yes, of course, just across the board, starting with Erdogan in Turkey, still in power. Yes, the rise of autocratic democracy, or call it what you want, but very flawed democracy. That's another arch that I blame you for, really.
Philippe Moreau-Chevrolet,
that's right.
What's changed in 15 years?
I think the confrontation between democracies and authoritarian regimes is for me it's the main aspect of the last 15 years. That's something that I take from Laurence Rossignol, who is a French senator and a great feminist and a great intellectual lady. And it's an analysis of the world such as with these dictatorships, these authoritarian regimes fighting against democracies increasingly. And now with the Ukraine invasion, it's even more it's even stronger, and that's for me. That's the most important.
Because at the time we
face.
were having discussions about some people, I wouldn't say journalists admiring Putin, but at least giving him up until this period of 2007, 2008 the benefit of the doubt.
We've been playing by this fascination of ours for
of strong men.
For strong men, because it's simple. It seems simple enough to have a strong guy in charge. We won't have to bother with anything. He will do the best he can, and it will be good for us. It's like having a father all over again, okay? That's not the solution. And now we are getting more and more aware that the price to pay for this kind of simplification is the loss of our freedom, maybe the loss of our lives, the loss of our children's lives, and the loss of everything we know as, good things. The capacity of being able to mourn a guy who's dead. The fact that this guy wouldn't be dead if the government didn't kill him, by the way.
Alexei Navalny.
Civil liberties, the fact to open your mouth on Twitter. A lot of Putin supporters on X, the former Twitter, social networks, they wouldn't be able to speak if they were living in Russia. They wouldn't be able to tweet about what they tweet about. There wouldn't be any freedom. They wouldn't exist, these guys, If they are for real and not bots in some troll farms in remote Siberia, they wouldn't be able to do it in an authoritarian regime. You know what you lose, but you know it too late.
I couldn't help thinking when he talked about strongmen. In the past 15 years, we also saw the rise of another strongman, which is Xi Jinping, which completely changed the game of how China was as a world actor. We still do not know how COVID began. So what?
Yeah, and hold on.
2012
The sort of the perception of Xi Jinping before and after COVID, radically different.
Absolutely, he was a sort of Winnie the Pooh figure, and you're signing off now with him taking on, as much power as Mao Zedong did, making sure that, power is completely centralized in China. He oversaw, Xi Jinping talking points, sheeplomacy, the wolf warrior diplomacy, all of which has also raised the stakes in geopolitics, access to shipping lanes, overreacting to border conflicts, increasing China's might in the South China Seas. That's another big one that we've seen in 15 years.
Mikko Heinz, is there an argument to be made that the most history-changing events of the last 15 years are not people, but an invisible virus, or coronavirus, COVID, and of course global warming?
Well, the pandemic, it was such a shock. I mean, that's probably the one thing that if you'd said in 2009, what was going to happen over the next 15 years, I think the coronavirus pandemic is the one thing that we wouldn't have got right. I know that there were some clever scientists telling people that there was going to be a pandemic at some point, but we didn't really believe them. I think that was the one thing that has taken everybody completely by shock. Everyone wearing a face mask for 2 years, not leaving your house, not being allowed to go to the shops. I mean, it was completely science fiction crazy. Whereas, of course, at the opposite end of the spectrum, global warming is something we've known about all this time, and that has been creeping up on us, and that we're still incapable of dealing with. And I think, what Philippe was talking about the rise of the authoritarians, and I think an important part of that rise, and looking at Xi as well, is that it's not just something that's happened by coincidence because of the chaos of social media and the chaos of global economic cycle. It's a deliberate tactic. Xi has got a plan that this is going to be the century where authoritarians take over and the era of democracies are going to be on the wane. So, it's an actual deliberate plan. And if you look at that plan and the rise of some of those authoritarians and the weakening of America as a global leader, and you look into that chaos and you think, who is going to be the one that organizes a unified global response to global warming. And it's really hard to be optimistic and see a way that we're all going to come up with a shared vision to save the planet.
All right, we spoke earlier about the Gaza criticism at the Berlinale Festival. The world this week will continue to be that safe space where the Fourth Estate can opinionate, like World Politics Review editor Judah Grunstein, who knows how to make friends and influence people at the Cannes Film Festival with this 2016 segment.
I hate the Cannes Film Festival. I find it to be a self-absorbed ego trip for narcissists. It's an old club where the same directors are invited year after year to show their films, whether they're good or not. They're almost 99% men. And this year, to even make it easier to not pay attention to it, you don't even see the cast and the crew anymore, or the cast of the movies, because all the top models from all over the world have invaded La Croisette, and all you see is the pictures of these models who have nothing to do with the movies. So I'm over the Cannes Film
One
Festival.
man who won't be going to the movies. Has the world changed since 2016, Vivian Walt?
Well, the Cannes Film Festival hasn't, so there you go.
All right. This segment made possible thanks to intern extraordinaire Julia Christensen-Moreau, from producers Charles Vente, Alessandro Zinos, Rebecca Gignati, Juliette Laurin, Laura Burlou, and everyone on the other side of the glass. We'll see you Monday for the New Look France 24 debate.